Gam ki eile begeit salmaves loirada ki ata imadi. Gam ki eile begeit salmaves loirada ki ata imadi. Gam ki eile begeit salmaves loirada Ata imadi gam ki eile begeit salmaves loirada ki ata imadi dida la 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 dida ida 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 dida ida 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 bum 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 Ata imadi gam ki eile begeit salmaves loirada ki ata imadi gam ki eile begeit salmaves loirada ki ata imadi gam ki eile begeit salmaves loira la ki ata imadi la 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 ida de 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 oy de 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 ay de 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 ay da ida de 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 ay da ida gam ki eile begeit salmaves loirada ki ata imadi gam ki eile begeit salmaves loirada ki ata imadi gam ki eile begeit salmaves loirada ata imadi gam ki eile begeit salmaves loirada ki ata imadi da 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 de 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 ay da 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 ay da da de 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 ay da gam ki eile begeit salmaves loirada ki ata imadi gam ki eile begeit salmaves loirada ki ata imadi ay gam ki eile begeit salmaves loirada ki ata imadi gam ki eile begeit salmaves loirada ki ata imadi da 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 bum 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 ay da de da de de ay da da oh Thank you so much for coming, everybody. It's not a night to be alone tonight. So let's sing keep on singing one more time, two more times, so we could convince ourselves that we believe in these words that we're saying. V'gam ki yelech v'gelech tzalma v'tzbla yidara yata imadi gam ki yelech v'gelech tzalma v'tzbla yidara yata imadi v'gam ki yelech v'gelech tzalma v'tzbla yidara Ki ata imadi gam ki elech v'gem v'beitz alma v'sla nidara ki ata imadi da-da-da-da ay-da-ay-da-ay I really am happy that whoever's here is here, because it's really dangerous to be alone with your heart right now. Such a fragile heart, such a sensitive heart. And obviously, we had a whole shir prepared, a really important shir on Parshat Chayei, which talks about the kinyan that Avraham Avinu makes in Chevron. And instead, we're doing something completely different, because one of the things that happened today was that Ben Avla came from Chevron and did what he did 5 minutes from our house. So I just want to preface by saying one thing. If someone feels the need to walk out because it's too heavy, or because they don't like something that's being said, I promise you that it's mamish fine. It really is fine. Like tonight it's really fine, because I decided right before the shir, I decided to do something completely different, even though I'm sure we'll be able to take it from the Parsha. But there's no way we could go robotic. Start off by saying, okay, this should be Li'ilui Nishmasim. We're done with those days a long time ago already, Baruch Hashem. Not on autopilot, where it's in our faces, it's in our hearts, it's right in front of us. We're coming off of one of the most powerful weekends of my life, for many of us, I'm sure. Just such a powerful, powerful few days, commemorating Rabbi Shlomo's 20th Yarzeit. And I want to talk about another Yarzeit. And that's the Yarzeit tonight of one of the unfortunate greatest prophets of our generation, Reb Meir Kahana, who was gunned down 24 years ago tonight in the Marriott Hotel. But I don't want to stop talk about Reb Meir Kahana. We usually learn Reb Shlomo's Torahs in here. So I went to the archive. And I found an evening, 2 or 3 nights after Reb Meir was killed, where Reb Shlomo was giving a concert. And he dedicated the whole night in memory of Reb Meir Kahana. David was right behind him the whole time, actually. And he said some very important things there, which I think are very shayach. So mamash, at like 7:30, I transcribed this piece that we're going to be doing tonight, called My Best Friend Reb Meir, which is what he called him. But in order to go inside, before we go inside right now, I want to preface a few things, which is very, very important to say. Baruch Hashem, it's clear to us that the need for everything to change, it's clear to everyone, because most of us feel beyond the pain of what takes place, of what's been taking place today in Tel Aviv and tonight, this evening right next to us. So besides the rage that comes from that, the scary thing is this numbing silence. And Daniel and I were discussing this when Daniel walked in. It's not necessarily the numbing silence that comes from the world. It's the numbing silence that comes from a certain aspect of Am Yisrael. You know, Rabbi Shlomo once, he'll say it tonight too. Before that, I'll say something else I once heard. I once heard Rabbi Shlomo say in the 70s, he said, you know, Reb Meir, you always called him Reb Meir. Reb Meir said, never, never again. Right? That was the whole slogan. Never again. Reb Shlomo says, I also say never again, but I change it a little bit. I say, like never before. Meaning, it's true, it'll never happen again if we're Yidden like they're never Yidden like us before. But you can get caught and very lost in between these two different slogans. Very confusing. It's the most difficult thing to look through what our leadership is saying. That right now Yidden are being attacked everywhere. My friend Motel from Tekoa this morning on the road from Tekoa to Yerushalayim got mamash a big stone right in, Motel Wolf, my good friend Motel. Everywhere. And the headlines are the rabbis going at it with a war with each other. Are you not allowed to go onto Har HaBayit? But Mele, it would just be a halachic dispute. Alavai, it would just be a halachic dispute. The dispute is, what kind of grade of Rabbanim are you? What kind of league? Who's speaking? Liga Aleph, Liga Dalet. Chief Rabbi says that minor league Rabbanim are the ones that are allowed to go onto Har HaBayit, while a Jew, a tzaddik, Yehuda Glick, is still in the hospital. Baruch Hashem began yesterday to recognize people around him, because he's gone down, because he leads that whole world of showing how important it is to have access, to go up and pray in a place where Avram took Yitzchak to the Akedah, a place where Chazal teach us also, Vayitze Yitzchak lesuach basadeh, that when Yitzchak goes to daven for his zivug in this parsha, it was in Har HaBayis. A place where Yaakov goes to sleep and has the dream of the 12 tribes. And look at our shallow pettiness of Yiddishkeit. It's disgrace. I could use a swear word right now. I'm so disgusted. I'm so absolutely disgusted that this is what we're stuck with. Remember yesterday, I don't know who was with me, which chaver with me in Yerushalayim, I don't remember which session it was. I think in Simchat Shlomo. So Esther, you were there, I don't know who else was there. Remember that last interview that Rabbi Shlomo did in the summer of 1994, where Rabbi Mickey Rosen asked him that question about what kind of Yiddishkeit, what's his Yiddishkeit all about, who is he, who are you, Rabbi Shlomo? And we've come back to this so many times where he said, I can't stand shallow ideas. I can't stand shallow people. I can't, he says, I love them, I forgive them, but I can't stand them. I want you to know, a few weeks ago I was in Toronto, stayed by a very, very special family, beautiful family. Family, a lot of big machers and rebbeim come and walk through. I come down for breakfast Sunday morning. One of the chief rabbis of Israel was in the kitchen. Not the chief rabbi, there's only two of them. One of the other leading rabbinic figures here is in the kitchen with me. I come down, he's sitting in the kitchen. His assistant, Shalom Aleichem, we're hugging, very nice. Didn't even acknowledge me. He had not. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. Remember, Rabbi Shlomo said if he was the chief rabbi, the first thing he would do is he'd institute fines. If you passed by the street, passed by someone on the street and didn't greet them with Shalom Aleichem, that's considered as ridiculous shtuyot. But the stuff that the Rabbanim today are really busy with are very, very important. So, I want to find the difference, I want to find the solution of tying these two slogans together. On the one hand, never again. Apparently we think we took care of that already because now we have a strong army. Never again. But to tie it in to like never before. Because it's not stam. That 2 days differentiate between these two very powerful Yarzeits. And instead of me just telling you how I feel, I was a kid in high school and I started reading and learning from Rav Kahana's Sfarim. And I saw that I was feeling too guilty because every single word that he wrote was becoming a lie. It wasn't like, I don't think he was right. It was like, I'm reading, I'm looking at the world, I'm like, okay. And then I keep on reading and I see more and more of what's going on in the world. And I'm thinking, is something absolutely wrong with me? And then once in a while, when I mention his name in public, one time I mentioned it in public, whoo, my God, someone said, what are you doing to your career? But Rabbi Shlomo said, you can only really want to wipe out evil and not care about the world thinks only if you love the world. If you hate, if what you want to do and accomplish is stemming from your hatred towards people, even towards the Ishmaelim, then it's not coming from the right place. But if it's kind because you love Yidden, then that's something else. And it's very important to remember that those two words, Mavet La'aravim, has no room anywhere in the world. Even on a night like tonight. It's not about that, and I want to make it very clear. It is not about that. To say death to the Arabs it's an anti-Jew. That's an anti-human. It's a horrific thing to say. And yet, on the same token, if you don't wake up for 1 second and realize Haba lehorgecha, hashkem lehorgo, the person who's coming to kill you, you better get up and kill them. Then you're sleeping. You're Parshat in a coma. And I'm sorry I'm talking like this, but right before everyone walked in here, I saw that footage of what they showed from Alon Shvut. And just today, I remember I was talking to my friend Naftali. I had to drop off something in Bat Ayin. What a contrast. This sweet couple, this woman has an anniversary tonight. She wanted to surprise her husband with a new album and the soul of Hanukkah. Her husband's one of Rav Ginsburg's secretaries. And they said, for some people, some women buy their husbands, I don't know, I shouldn't say anything because if someone did it here, whatever. But to get your husband to, a little safer and some nigunim for your anniversary, it's very special, He emailed me right before, he said, you don't know what this day, it's a day like today, to come home to that, save their lives. So I'm driving home from Bat Ayin at about, probably like 1:15, and I'm on the phone with my friend Naftali, and I said, Naftali, you're not going to believe where I am right now. I said to him, right now, I'm passing by the place where the 3 boys were kidnapped. And I said it about 4 hours before where I literally was driving by, this harshness took place. So I don't want to, tonight's a night that I can't afford to just go into Parsha, but I want to bring something from the Parsha into what we're going to be looking at tonight. It says that how did Eliezer know who the Kala was for Yitzchak? How did he know? So remember, there's a very famous Torah. It's a very important teaching from Rabbi Shlomo. Very important. Remember, everyone has a hard time because how old was Rivka?
They say 3.
They say. They say 3. Rumor has it now. They say 3 years old, right? And a lot of people have a hard time, so you start going into all the terutzim. Well, back then, years were longer, and days were longer, whatever it is. Let's keep it at 3, even though it'll be a little bit difficult to understand how she drew that water out of the well and gave all the camels and everything. And she really had, nose rings and nose piercings by then too, but whatever. Let's say that you can keep it at 3 years, based on what we're about to say right now, keep it at 3 years old. Rabbi Shlomo says, how do we know that she was 3? Simple. When Eliezer describes meeting Rivka, the future mother of Am Yisrael, at the well, he says, Va'avo hayom el ha'ayin. It's a famous teaching we learned in Evan Shlomo a few times already, but it's important to remember again. He says, I came today to the ayin. He calls the well ayin, coming from the word ma'ayan. Ushaftem ma'im b'sason mima'inei ha'yeshua, from the well springs of redemption. Ma'ayan, ayin. I came to the ayin. I came to the well. But the tzaddikim say, why didn't you just say va'avo hayom el habe'er or va'avo hayom el ha'ma'ayan? Rabbi Shlomo says the eyes have 2 functions. One function is to see what's right in front of you. That's what it's used for. That's the sense of eyesight, to actually see what's in front of you. But the second function of the eye is what we say in Nishmas, V'chol ayin lecha tetzapeh. The eyes are meant for longing. You use your eyes to long for that which isn't here yet, or that which you have already, and want it to be much deeper. V'techazena eineinu b'shuv chadetzion barachnu. What does that mean? It doesn't just mean my eyes should one day see what will be. It means that right now, the way I look at the world should be with eyes of longing. And you can tell this by looking at certain people in their eyes and see, are they just interested in what's in front of them right now? Or are they using the other function of the eye to always look at the world with what will be tomorrow? And both are crucial. Because if you're just looking at what will be tomorrow, then what's in front of you today might be a really bad scene. But if you're only looking at what's in front of you today and not even thinking about tomorrow, then you're believing that whatever's in front of you, that's it. Nothing bigger, nothing greater, nothing more beautiful will happen to the world. And Gewalt, are we forced as a Jewish people to constantly use both functions of the eyes? Because on the one hand, we can't afford to only look at the eyes of V'chol ayin lecha tetzapeh, what I'm longing for. Yidlach have to stand behind bus stops now. How sick is that? Because I have to be careful with what's in front of me every second. But on the other hand, if I don't look at the world with v'chol ayin lecha tetzapeh, longing for the great day to come with my eyes, then I'm destroyed. Because if all that's in front of me is all that's happening, a couple gets into a fight, chas v'shalom, it shouldn't be. The whole ayin, they come back to a place of figuring out how to move forward, because their eyes don't meet on a level of just seeing what's in front of them right now, because what's in front of them right now is chaos. But they meet and they reconnect, reestablish, and begin to rebuild with the function of the longing. V'chol ayin lecha tetzapeh. And the tzaddikim say that you can see this function in the eye from birth, or from a very young age. Sometimes you ever glued to certain babies? There's not like that Seinfeld episode, you gotta see the baby. I'm talking about like really see a baby that has like something going on with them. I saw our upstairs neighbor, the Rosen, so I didn't even see the eyes. I saw the eyes closed. I was looking at the baby, I'm like, wow. It's amazing that I feel like this baby is not going to compromise for anything less than Geula in this world. Mm-hmm. But you see that with certain people, no matter what age they're at, that there's something in their eye. The way they look at the world is just different than the way that most people use their eyes. So now we can understand. How did Eliezer know that Rivka was the one for Yitzhak? Remember, it was a whole crazy test. It's a whole geschäft. We've learned it for a few years already, how he knew it was Rivka, and the simanim, the signs that he made for himself to know how he will fulfill his servant Avraham's shlichus, his master Avraham's shlichus, how he would know. There were all these signs. Torah says, Va'avo hayom el ha'ayin. I came today to the eye. I looked in this girl's eye. Maybe she's 3, maybe she's 30, doesn't matter. I saw she's longing for the great day to come. There was something in her eye. But we need both. We need both sides of the coin. So in between songs at this concert, what we have in front of us, I'm sorry, Web Yeshiva students, I didn't get this up, because this literally, like 8:15, I just finished it, and I'm sure there's typos here, but I'll send it to whoever emails me, and I'll send it out in the general share afterwards. Okay. You got it in the back? Okay. Did it reach you? Okay, good. Okay. This is Rabbi Shlomo saying like this in between songs. Let me just say something which we're all thinking about, because the crowd was obviously shivering, was shaking. No one could. He didn't want to just ignore, pretend, just another concert. You know, Rav Kahana's funeral was one of the largest attended funerals ever in Yerushalayim. Ever. So Rav Shlomo says like this. Let me just say something which we're all thinking about. During the time of Napoleon, a lot of Rebbes wanted to bring Mashiach. But, as much as 6 million Jews were killed, it looked like if Mashiach would have come in those days, it would have been even more terrible. What's he talking about? A lot of the tzaddikim knew what it would entail, what the coming of the Mashiach would entail. And you know that feeling you have tonight? That feeling of absolute disgust, pain, and just wondering, right? So, this is what all the tzaddikim were scared of was going to happen when Mashiach was going to come, around when Mashiach is coming. Because they knew that for some reason it would entail so much chaos. A lot of the tzaddikim said, Rabbanu Shalom, take me away. I don't even want to be around for it. I don't even want to be around for it. Bless you. I don't even want to be around for the insanity. So, let's, please, we can get very sidetracked easily, okay? Let's continue. The Heiliger Ropshitzer and the Heiliger Imanover wanted to bring Mashiach. They said, I don't care if we go in blood till our noses, Mashiach should come. And this, the Ropshitzer says, Lishlish ulerevia lo shamanu. Does anyone recognize that statement? That pasuk? Because we say it every single morning in Shachris, actually. Lishlish ulerevia lo shamanu. Don't worry. You're all wondering, oh my God, I must be a really bad boy or girl, because I don't know if it's in Shachris every morning. I don't recall any of this. It's in the Pitum actually. Those of us who live here should. It's in the Pitum Aktoret. It's in the end of Inke Elokeinu, where it talks about the different measurements of the sima of the besamim. Pitmala chatzayin kshera lishlish urevia lo shamanu. It basically means that it's also something's only kosher if it's split in half, but if it's split into a third or a fourth, lo shamanu. We didn't hear of that. So, but he says like this. So the Rabbi says lishlish urevia lo shamanu. This is a Hasidic way of understanding text. If 1/3 lishlish, if 1/3 of a Jew, or even 1/4 of the Jew will not be there, I don't want Mashiach to come. I'll explain it in different words. This past not this year Tisha B'Av, last year Tisha B'Av, right after my Rebbe in New York gives his kinos, his drasha, they post it online right away. They put it on immediately, and it's okay. It's okay. They put it. They basically upload Rav Weinberger's drashas immediately, and they put it on. So Tisha B'Av as it is the most horrible day, and Bichlal to sit anywhere doing keynote has become, unfortunately, extremely not connective to almost anyone that I know. But we still do it. There's that guilt, FFB stuff that's inside of us that we can never get rid of. So we still do it, some of it. But sometimes it takes a lot of holy chutzpah to say, I need to connect on my own. So a year and a half ago, after Shachris, I was in Neve Daniel for some reason. I don't know why I davened there. And then I drove to the Tatzpit, to the lookout in Armona Netziv, which is one of the most beautiful places. And sadly, I wouldn't even dare of going there right now tonight, because that's how sick the world is right now. And we overlook the Makom HaMikdash. And I was sitting there looking at Har HaBayit, and Rav Weinberger starts crying while he's giving a drasha. He said, he's talking about his parents, his father, who went through the concentration camps. He said, I just can't imagine the Mashiach is going to come and there won't be any survivors left to greet him. He said, I can't be. It just can't be. And he started crying. It just can't be. So on the one level, that's what he was connecting to. When Mashiach comes, it cannot be that we went through 6 million. And the Chaveh, our grandparents, some of them who made it out, won't be around to meet Mashiach, and we're getting to a stage in life where there's a big gap in that generation. It's getting to that place. It's crazy. When I was a little kid, so we had I saw many people with numbers. Today, I barely do. But the Rav Shitzer is saying over here is l'shlish or revia. If even a third or a fourth of one Jew won't be there to witness the greeting of Mashiach, it won't happen. Meaning that everyone's going to be there. Everyone's going to be a full, complete chiyas hamesim. Everyone has to see it. No matter how much pain it takes, everyone's going to have to see it. Again, I don't fully understand this story, but it touched my heart in a very deep way because of where he takes it now. Friends, God should have compassion on us. Every Jew should be there when Mashiach is coming. Not one should be missing. I have to share with you one more very important thing. During the Yom Kippur War, I was interviewed on Dutch television. They asked me, what's the difference between you and them? You are shooting and they are shooting, meaning the Israeli army and the Arab armies. I said to them, the difference is very simple. When they're shooting, they're praying, please God, let someone be killed with this bullet. And we all know, right, Chavre, that when these animals do what they do, the last words that they usually say is God is great, right? The biggest definition, the biggest anti-God act in the world, and they use God's name. We wonder why there's confusion in the world, right? But Rabbi Shlomo said that's what they pray for before they pull the trigger. But I swear to you, Rabbi Shlomo said, when we are shooting, we don't want anyone to be killed. We're praying that between my pulling the trigger and the bullet hitting somebody, can't you make a miracle? Can't Mashiach come in between so that nobody should be killed? Friends, what can I do? I want to tell you something. I knew Reb Meir Kahana Mamish since I'm a little boy. We grew up in yeshiva together. We never learned in the same yeshiva, but our paths always crossed. When I began my humble career singing, he began his career in a different way. And as much as somehow I never agreed with the way he was doing it, the only thing is everyone knows, and here, Chavra, I didn't edit the text, because I wanted you to hear how he said it. He mamish, 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 mamish loved Israel with all his heart. How can we not be broken? How can we not be broken? The last time I was flying, you have to pay $11 at the airport. This is from Israel to New York. Maybe from New York to Israel, I'm not sure. Probably from Israel to New York, because he says somehow I only had shkalim and the plane was leaving. Reb Meir was standing behind me on line. I asked him, can you give me a loan of $11? He gave me $11. And then on the plane I looked in my pocket and I had dollars on me which I didn't see before. I went and I gave him $10 back and I said, Reb Meir, I want to owe you $1 because I want to see you again. So just for my dollar, we need Mashiach to come so I can give him back this $1. But I want you to know, a lot of Jews owe him more than $1. You can agree or disagree about what he said. I'll tell you something. At one time, there was a big happening in Brooklyn College. I was playing, and Reb Meir was supposed to give a speech after. Everybody knew me, everybody knew Reb Meir, and they knew we're not really agreeing on a few things. But somehow we are the best friends. So I said, I want you to know something. Reb Meir and I have two different ways of looking at things, but let me tell you something about him. The Yida Kodesh and the Heilige Pshischer were sitting together and they ate dinner. And Heilige Yida Kodesh says to the Pshischer, to the Simcha Bunim, how do you envision the coming of the Messiah? So he says, it'll be a night like tonight. People will eat dinner, then they'll go to sleep. Sorry about that typo. In the middle of the night there'll be a big tumult. They will open the windows and they'll ask, what's going on there? And someone will say, hey, Mashiach has come. So the Yida Kodesh thought for a while, and he said, sorry about that typo, not you're 8, you're right. Okay? You're right. It'll be a night like tonight. People will eat dinner. In the middle of the night there'll be a big tumult. People will open the windows and ask what happened. Mashiach came, but you made one mistake. That night, they won't be able to sleep. So Rabbi Shlomo said, so I said that in every generation, there are some people who don't let us fall asleep. In this generation, it's Reb Meir. Always wakes us up. And this is a key point over here. You could agree, Chevra, or disagree with stuff that he said, even though you're kind of disagreeing with every single thing that's been happening to Am Yisrael. That's not the point. The point is that in every generation, the Ribbono Shel Olam sends somebody to wake us up and ask questions that we'd rather not ask ourselves, like the title, which we mentioned in Shir a few weeks ago of one of his famous books, called Uncomfortable Questions for Comfortable Jews. That was the title of one of his books. Uncomfortable Questions for Comfortable Books. For Comfortable Jews. Slicha. So, I've been thinking since the beginning of Bereshis, why is it that we know the Torah as the book of love, the story of our life, the story of the creation, and we always say that we need to learn out teachings in each parsha and see how they're taking place right now in our life. Like that's the highest form of learning, is not just seeing all the Rishonim and Achronim, what they have to say about sugyas, but to see where in my life is there an Akedas Yitzchak, or where in my life do I find myself, am I ever praying for stone? Meaning, Am I easy to give up on people or not? Or, where in my life do I not care what people think about me and I do what God says? Like Noach, who was told to build an ark. For all those years, people would laugh at him, but he just did it because he knew Hashem told him, right? So you always ask yourself these questions. What I was trying to understand, and I want to share it with all of you and here afterwards, not necessarily now, because our time is always limited tonight. But why is it that from the moment that the Torah starts talking in Bereshis, there's the constant process of eliminating a certain side, and a certain person, and a certain people? Why is that? You think the Torah Chaim, Etz Chaim Hina Machzikim, Drachei Darchei Noam, V'chol Netivotei Shalom, all its paths are peace. Everything is... That sounds to me that would mean that the book that I'm given can only be filled with people that get along and things that work. Because V'chol Netivotei Shalom, everything at the end of the day gets to it. There's a teaching from Pirkei Avos. It says, "Hevei mitalmidav shel Aaron HaKohen." What does it mean to be a student of Aaron Cohen? Ohev Shalom, Rodev Shalom, Ohev es Habrios, umekarvan laTorah. Lover of peace, a pursuer of peace, lover of all creations, and bringing them close to the Torah. We mentioned before the Pshischar. I want to give the not so comfortable explanation of this saying of Chazal. Ohev Shalom, a person has to be a student of Aaron Cohen, loving peace, Verodev Shalom, and running after peace, a pursuer of peace. But you know what he said? He said you have to run after all the dirt and ugliness and wipe it away so that there will be peace in this world. Rabbi Shlomo taught us last year when we were learning in Shmos about Yetzias Mitzrayim. Us Yidlach are stricken with one horrible machala, a horrible illness. We forget so fast what people do to us. We forget so fast. I'm sure it comes from a place of we are Rahmanim b'nei Rahmanim, because we are the most compassionate people, full of mercy in our nature, in our DNA. It exists. Since we're already going so out there tonight, I'm going to tell you something that I never published, and I don't think I ever said this in public, but it doesn't really matter right now, because look what we're going through, as if this matters, like I said. One time Rabbi Shlomo was somewhere, and someone gave him such a hard time for who he was and what he was doing and the way he did certain things. And the guy said to Rabbi Shlomo, called him horrible names and ridiculed him, whatever it was. That was nothing new. But Rabbi Shlomo says, let me ask you a question. If I go to one of these ashrams, or I go to one of these far-out places, it's filled with avodah zarah, or I go to a place where there's a bunch of junkies in there, and the way that I could take one of those Yiddish kinder out of there is by giving them a hug and a kiss on their forehead. If it was your child, and you knew that I could take them out, would you say it's okay or not? And this Hasidic Yid said, of course, if it was my child, I'd tell you to do it. I couldn't tell you to do it if it was someone else's child. Enough said, Chavra. So now I'm going to ask the inevitable. Reb Nassim Breslover teaches us that the tachlis of a person in this world is to wake up and leave all the shallow pettiness that he's usually stuck with and that triggers his mind, and forget about dealing with all the things in life which are unimportant and not meaningful, which is the consequences of what usually happens to us due to tragedy. Because when tragedy strikes us, that's when we usually rid ourselves of all the shtuyot and the nonsense. Reb Nosson says, to get there without a tragedy, and to just occupy yourself with that which is relevant in this world, is the tachlis of a person in this world. That's what we're here for. How much closer to home do these things have to hit? It's not Musar, I'm asking. I don't know the answer, I'm saying it to myself. I don't understand. I have no idea. I have no idea. But one thing I do know, when we spoke about this before, the whole notion of I have to clean up the crime scene and show that life goes on it's not a victory. It's a nice, cute Zionist temporary resolution. That's not doing anything. But these both functions of the eyes which we spoke about is the only way I could live in this world. That the first function of I have to see what's in front of me. As much as I'm hoping and praying for that greater day, I have to see what's standing in front of me. And I have to act as if it's always about to take place, God forbid, to those who are closest to me. Rav Kahana, you can go on YouTube and every debate, these brilliant debates, which are mind-blowing, mind-boggling. And he said, friends, I don't hate Arabs. I love Jews. And we have to remember that. If the result of what's going on is let's go and start saying death to the Arabs, let's try to kill a few Arabs, because that's what then you're crazy. Not that you're ruining the Jewish people. You're not ruining. Trust me, there's crazy a lot of mishigas taking place, but that's not what the tzaddikim are talking. That's not even what the right-wing fanatic is talking about. That's not what it is. It must come from Avas Yisrael, like Rabbi Shlomo said. You could disagree or agree, but Reb Meir mamish loved all of Israel. This past Yarzeit of Rabbi Shlomo, one of the sessions we did is we attempted to tap into the question of how is it possible to love the way that he loved the world? How does that happen? Like, to be a big Talmid Chacham, I don't know, I could say he had good chinuch, he learned in the right places, his father prepped him since he was a little kid, I could say that. Where did he come up with all these nigunim? I could say, I don't know, he was davening all the time, he listened to fantastic waltz music when he was younger, and it had a big influence, which he did, and that influenced his, like that's Viennese waltzes all right there. So I could say there was hashpaz there and all that. But how do you love the way he loved? It's like his love has to keep us awake at night and saying, how do we wake up the next morning and love like he did? And Reb Meir's keeping us awake at night whether we like it or not. Look back inside. We're going to do just a few more minutes of this. You know what's so heartbreaking? You see that paragraph? You know what's so heartbreaking? That the so-called, so that's also how he said it, Jewish leadership, they tolerate everything. They tolerate everything against Israel. And they can't tolerate something which is too much for Israel. All of Israel owes him a lot. All of Israel owes him a lot. I want you to know something else. What a privilege. What a privilege. He gave his spiritual life for Israel his whole life. And he was also privileged to give his physical life for all of Israel. This is not so simple. We don't know the way they look down from Shemayim. There can be a Yiddish with a shtreimel shuckling away for 100 years, and heaven says, yeah, cute. There might be Reb Meir up there. We don't know. We don't know the way God is looking at Yidden We don't know. Now, I was debating whether to end off with the end over here or not, but I think we're going to just learn this last piece because it'll complete everything, I think. You see what it is? And I heard this and say this somewhere else too. Reb Meir was looking at the world the way it is now, and it really is in bad shape. He's saying this 24 years ago. But my shita is, my way is, that I'm looking at the world the way it could be. What a world. That's what he said. The difference between me and Rav Kahana, he said, was that Rav Kahana looks at the world the way it is today, and I look at the world the way it could be tomorrow. And I want to say, Chavra, that that's exactly the two functions of the eyes. It's the way it is right now. I have to see what's right now. And I also have the chol ayin l'chatetzaper. I also have to have the eye of the way it's going to be tomorrow. Let's go out, some people have a very hard time with staying up at night because they're worried about how am I going to function the next day. Usually when we can't sleep, it's not that we can't sleep that bothers us. We think of how are we going to function with the kids or whatever. We're just worried about what it's going to be like the next day. It doesn't bother us so much that right now we can't sleep. But what's amazing is that even when we can't sleep, we're not living in the moment. We're living tomorrow already, even though I'm just trying to sleep right now, I'm already living tomorrow. So it's the same as Am Yisrael in general. We already declared what this generation's Avodah Zarah is. Remember we did it in Shir last year. Every generation has a different Avodah Zarah. It used to be idols. Maybe once it was money. It's still a little bit money. Today's Avodah Zarah is being politically correct. It's the Avodah Zarah of this generation. It's gotten us really far, Baruch Hashem, huh? So, if you can't sleep at night, say thank you to Hashem that you're awake. If you can't sleep during the day, meaning if you can't rest right now, don't avoid that. Let that penetrate every part of you. Don't wait for someone to come and snap you out of it. You should snap everyone else out of whatever they are and wake them up with you. But alavai, that it shouldn't take tragedy to wake us up anymore. Why are we talking like this only tonight after what happened over here? As if like last week this situation was any different. As if last month it was any better. Come on. It's a joke. It's a very sad joke. Anyway, this week is just, like I said, told you my friend Shaul coined the Cheshvan, the month where you miss your Rebbe. For the Breslovers in the house and listening to us, this week is also the Yarzeit of Rabbi Yisrael Dov Odesai, the Saba, who you knew, right? Mm-hmm. It's tonight also, yeah. Mm-hmm. And Rachel Imenu was last week. Nachshon Waxman, the Gibor Yisrael, was this month too. Rav Ovadia was the beginning of the month. The Rishner, the Eish Kodesh. We'll end off with a teaching from the Eish Kodesh. This is one last strong thing. I say this every year, and every year I pray that it's not valid anymore. Every year when I say this teaching, I always pray, like, I hope no one can understand what I'm talking about. Eish Kodesh writes from the ghetto, I believe it's 1941 or 1942, Parshat Chayei. And you all know what happened to the Eish Kodesh, right? He went up with the 6 million. And the Eish Kodesh writes, it's connected to what you said to me in the beginning. It's really a beautiful thing. He says that Our Parshat begins by saying that Sarah died, and there's a Rashi there that the Midrash talks about that the Satan came, or this angel of death came and showed Sarah a vision of Yitzchak on the Akedah, her son on the Akedah, before he was saved, about to be slaughtered. And Sarah Imenu, it says, Parcha Nishmasa, that her soul couldn't bear it. And everyone thinks it just, she died like subconscious, like she couldn't even take it, so she just died. Parcha Nishmasa means that her soul blossomed up. It just flew up. And the Ish Kodesh writes, Sarah Imenu died in protest, saying to God that there are certain things, certain tests you can't put us through. And even if you put us through, and we make it out of them, we're just walking scars the rest of our life. Seeing your son on the Akedah is a test that you can't put us through. Where did this phrase come, that God only puts you through tests that you can pass? Where is that from? I've looked in Chazal, I never saw it. I don't know what that means. How about God puts you through certain tests, and you say to the Ribono Shel Olam, He's waiting for you to say, sorry, certain tests you can't put me through. And the Ish Kodesh is writing this in the ghetto, saying, God, we can come out of here after what our eyes have seen. So who are we after we walk out of here? Even if we live another 35 years, we're walking scars. Not wounds that heal, scars forever. And every time there's another family that has to get the call that they got today, so they can continue living. But we all know, and I always say this at every Shiva call to these families, the only nechama in the world for this family is not another shul written, which is nice, when the shuls and Torahs and memory, it's all good. Only the coming of Mashiach is the only nechama for these families. And if we remember that, then maybe, it won't take tragedies only to wake us up. So the light of Mashiach has to come down now already, because enough is enough. Maybe that's the light coming down this week in Shamayim from all the Yarzeit to the Tzaddikim should open it up for us. Ani ma'amin be'emuna shleima, be'emuna shleima, oy bevi'as HaMashiach, bevi'as HaMashiach. Ani ma'amin be'emuna shleima, be'emuna shleima, ay bevi'as HaMashiach, bevi'as HaMashiach. V'yafal pi sheyismameya im kol zeh achake lo. V'yafal pi sheyismameya im kol zeh achake lo. Ani ma'amin be'emuna shleima, be'emuna shleima. HaMashiach, B'mi'yas HaMashiach, Da-da-da-da, Ay-da-da-da, Ay-da-da-da, Ay-ay-ay-ay-ay, Ay-ay-ay-ay, Ay-ay-ay, Bum 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 bum, bum 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 bum, da 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 da, da 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 da, bum 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 bum, bum 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 bum, bum 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 bum, bum bum bum. Really, probably more than ever, thank you for making sure that we weren't alone tonight. Thank you so much. And I hope we're able to keep on waking each other up and not feeling bad about it, not being scared to be party poopers. Just to like be so thankful that at least, hopefully, this will be the last time we ever need to have tragedy to wake us up. Bezrat Hashem.